to reflect the fact that notice of this special meeting was posted on October 26th here at the City Hall, which is more than 48 hours prior to this meeting. The news media, all the news media was provided notice of the meeting with the agenda at least 48 hours prior to the meeting, and the aldermen were all notified by mail and my personal notification was 48 hours prior to this meeting. So I'd like to minutes to reflect.
Okay, first we'll start off, we'll open it up to public comment. Anyone have anything under public comment?
Yeah, I see on the agenda about the hotel may come up tonight, discussion on it. And I just want to say one thing, that if you five are still planning to vote yes for this thing, knowing very well that one of our own may have to close his doors, then frankly, I couldn't live with myself if I knew I was a part of that. And to the four that's running, that the four aldermen, that if you're planning on running again this next time, I would forget it, because there's no way you guys are gonna get it. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else for public comment?
Are we going to be able to comment later in the meeting after we know some facts?
We'll have a discussion under that part. Okay, no one else for public comment? Okay, moving on to discuss proposed hotel development within the TIF area. And with that, I guess.
Terry Rufford is here as well as Mike Weber. Mike Weber is a TIF consultant. And Terry Rufford is the special TIF attorney. So he is retained in this matter. So I asked Mayor for Terry Rufford.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Terry Robert. I'm an attorney in my law office in O'Fallon, Illinois. I almost do nothing but municipal work, including tax refinancing and public financing work. I was asked by the mayor and Jeff to get involved and to help take a look at the proposal that was made from a financial, not financial, but a legal standpoint, and to just give some recommendations, if any, to the council on what we found. Mike Weber, of course, he took a look at it, from a public finance perspective and a consulting perspective, and then also Mr. Andrews also looked at it, your hotel expert. And I had several meetings, of course, with the developers, along with Mr. Kirkover and the mayor. And at the last meeting, what they told us, the developer told us, that they were going to come in and build a hotel, whether they got any assistance or not. What they said was, if they don't get any assistance from the city, they would build a smaller hotel. Let me refer back to my notes. They said they would build a smaller hotel that would, what they called a two-story plain Jane hotel, that would be, what they term, paraphrasing now, wouldn't have near the value of a hotel that they would build if they got reimbursement. They were requesting 75% of the increment, not upfront, but reimbursement of what's left in the TIF. They said if they got reimbursement, what they would do then is build a hotel that would be similar to a Hampton Inn or a Ramada Inn with the following amenities. It would be 3 stories as opposed to 2-story. And instead of being only 48 rooms, it would be in the 55 to 65 rooms, and they'd be larger than normal. They would have an expanded lobby, a fitness area, a 3-bay conference center that would accommodate at least 75 people. They would also have a restaurant attached to it, and also a kiddie playroom. That's what they said they would do if they got the TIF assistance that they were requesting. Otherwise, it would be a smaller version. And that's what I wanted to present you, because that's what they said to us. Obviously, you have the right to provide assistance if you want to. You also have the right to not provide assistance. So the law allows you to go either way. And at this point in time, I think it would be easier for me to answer questions that you have.
proposal they're proposing is a pay-as-you-go, no upfront money.
Caribbean, they didn't ask me upfront money, how it works with a TIF, you know, they have to collect the taxes first, they pay into the, you know, they pay into the county, and then the first distributed back into a special tax allocation fund. And now that allocation fund, money is being distributed pursuant to a redevelopment agreement. In this case, they're requesting 75% of the increment. Therefore, they would only get reimbursed, and they wouldn't get anything up front. They would have to spend the money and assume the risk before they would get any money for that after that. Of course, the money's have to be generated, it's always a year and a half, 2 years behind, because when you understand how it works, they collect the steps done, it just takes time for them to reimburse. I think it's only, it's approximately 7 years, Mike, up to TIF.
I estimated they have 6 years of cash flow.
Okay, 6 years of cash flow left out of what was once a 23-year TIF. So that's what they're facing with, and that's what you would have the max to offer under the laws that currently stands. So you understand, I'm not here to say, yes, you should do it. I'm not here to say, no, you should not do it. I'm not here to do that. I'm just telling you, I'm just here to provide information for you, answer your legal questions, and present how it should be done. So if you say no, this is where you go. If you say yes, you want to do it, I would say, well, this is how the redevelopment agreement should look. You tell me which way you want to go, and I'll tell you what I recommend to do from there.
Does anyone have any questions for Terry?
And I'll be here the rest of the evening, so if you think of one, I'll gladly answer any questions we have.
With the impact study that was done, stating that it wouldn't be good for the community to do such a thing, how do you view the impact study, the information that we provided with that?
The impact study, and Mike can correct me if he has a different view of it. I look at the impact study being similar to what would happen if you put in the lower quality hotel. So I think those two mesh. I think the study didn't take into contemplation what would happen if you put a better hotel in there with a restaurant, catering line, et cetera. So I think it'd be a little bit different analysis, but I'm not a hotel expert, so I can't tell you, would that make a big difference? I think it would make some difference, but I'm not in a position to quantify how much difference it would make.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Anyone else have any comments or questions for Terry? Okay, yes. Mike, do you have anything?
No, Jeff, did you have a chance to talk to Gary whether or not he had an opinion that it would change?
No.
My observation on the market study basically said you couldn't support 2 hotels. You couldn't support that many rooms in this marketplace. What they're proposing as a different type of hotel could change that dynamic, but I don't know that it would change it a whole lot. The bottom line, we took a look at the potential cash flow from TIF that could be plugged into this, and it's not anywhere near the amount of money that they think it would be. And if they have to go and get financing for this, they're gonna have to prove up that this is a viable hotel, okay? So, my guess is they have a tough time getting this financed even with a TIF deal, okay? So, a TIF deal would help overcome some of the problems with that site, because it's gonna be costly to develop it because of the topo problems. And you can make the argument that that's a reasonable TIF expense to have to overcome to make that site usable. But at the end of the day, it's my gut feeling that TIF is probably not going to be enough to make the project work. And so they're going to need more than just the Smith Travel Research report to go to the bank and get financing on this. They're going to have a feasibility study similar to the one that the city sanctioned. So they may be able to do the smaller, less expensive hotel without TIF assistance, but I think it'd be tough to pull it off with a much more expensive hotel, even with TIF assistance.
Roger, where you at? Roger, you got any comments?
At this point, we have shared all of the financial feasibility with the city and the attorneys. We have ran the numbers. We know exactly where we're at on our construction costs, and we wouldn't be proposing this if it wasn't going to be financially feasible. We currently have 5 other projects going, and we know where to make it.
Do you want to kind of, I guess, let everybody know what you guys were planning on if you did get TIF assistance and if you did not get TIF assistance on how you're looking at doing that?
Yeah, basically, if we don't get the TIF assistance, we're going to be looking at building a smaller Motel 6 type hotel that will have an outside entryways rather than an internal hallway. It's less expensive for construction. There will be no amenities. It will be a hotel. It will be approximately a $39 a night Motel 6. And if we do get the TIF assistance, we can get the financing. And to be totally honest, if you'd have looked at where we're sitting financially in our company assets, we've got no problem getting finance for anything.
And you want to talk about what the plan is if you do get the TIF, or what you're planning?
If we do get the TIF, what we'd like to do is go ahead and build exactly what we said we were going to build. A hotel that has meeting rooms in it, a hotel that has interview rooms in it, a hotel that has weight equipment. All of that is marginal expenses. What we need, again, with the TIF, we can take that and use that along with some of our things that we have going with our finance person to turn that into the equity that it's going to take to get the structure up. And I'm not going to give out everything because I've got 2 other hotels going up right now. But what we're looking at doing is building a decent hotel that will be competitive with Brad. If we put a Motel 6 in here at $39 a night, in my opinion, that's what's going to hurt Brad. But we're also looking at putting the pool in, a kiddie kind of water park that we plan on putting in all of our hotels. And the TIF money will be used for, I guess the best way to explain it was, we're either going to build a plain vanilla cake, or we're going to build a cake that has sprinkles and candles and fancy decorations. The TIF money is going to allow us to build a nicer product within the same market.
Does anybody else have any questions, or? Brad?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the Gale-Meyer study that I had done agreed with the H&H study. That agrees with my math from being in the business. We're all in agreement. I'm not a professional, but the other 2 certainly were. That's just not feasible. I don't care what they put up, it's not feasible. If they're giving any kind of tax funding, then that's just an unfair advantage for a doomed project. So if they can't cash flow, you know, I'm sure you're going to talk about all this tax revenue you're going to have coming in. If they don't cash flow, you don't have revenue. This whole deal, it hasn't made sense for a year. If somebody can explain it to me, I would sure appreciate it. But I live it every day, so I know what the market is. Thank you.
In looking at the debt load, I don't know what kind of debt load Brad's carrying. I don't know how many times he's refinanced his hotel. That I don't know. What I know is what the current cost of construction is, what the current cost of labor is, and what the current market says it will bear. When you put those that information together. The hotel works. As far as the market study goes, the market study was one-sided. The market study never talked to us on how we were going to build. It made assumptions on what our expenses were. If they'd have made a phone call, they could have came to our office, looked at what our expenses would be, and they would see what our contractors are going to charge us to build. That wasn't done. It was a one-sided study. What we're looking at is Brad wanting to protect whatever his debt load is. I don't know. What I do know is, I don't have glasses, that according to the tax receipt records, over the last 4 months, he's had an income of over $318,000, which translates into over $1 million worth of income. So,
$1 million worth of income.
taxes.
That takes him on a 12-month. If you're going to get in the business, you better learn about the business. You know, you start out slow in the spring, you have the peak in the summer, so you're going to take the peak couple months and say that that's the annual. You better learn the business, buddy. I'm still running below 60% for the year. You need to run about 60%
Now you're around
to make
60%?
money. I said we're below 60%.
Wait. Before you were
I said
down,
we're below 60%.
at the last meeting,
And my
you
point
said you
being-
were down below 50%.
My
Hey,
point,
that's enough. This is for discussion.
my point being that you need to be around
Excuse me,
60%.
and I got the
cash
floor.
flow.
Yeah. Roger, go ahead.
As he said, now he's right below 60%.
No, I didn't. I said below.
He said he was below 60. Please, I have the floor.
Don't put words in my mouth. Do
Robert's
not
rules
put
of
words in my
order.
mouth.
Hey, that's enough. Now,
Brad said-
Floor now, then.
Thank you. Brad said he's running below 60%. The last time we met, he was running 50 to 49%.
I said 52%. That was for the year to date, annual.
Okay, so now where are you at?
I just
Below
told you I'm
60%.
below 60%.
Okay, according to this, these figures, his occupancy has been almost full, figuring that he is charging full rate, which we know preferred customers don't get preferred rate. They get a preferred rate, not the advertised rate. So there's discrepancies in his argument. The study we showed in the STR report shows there's room to grow in the market. Right now, y'all are sending people over to Perryville.
No, we're not.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who's gonna assume the debt or whatever, whenever your hotel don't get the cash flow that you think it's gonna get? Does the city pick, how does that
No.
work?
Our debt is our debt.
What happens
I
though
thought you were
whenever it
getting
doesn't get the
USDA.
cash flow that you're expecting? What happens?
Our break-even point,
I don't wanna know, I don't care about your break-even point. I wanna know what happens if you don't get the flow that you're expecting to make your business be successful. If you're not doing the occupancy that you are saying that you can do.
the occupancy that we need to break even.
I don't care about that. I want to know what
The-
happens
the-
if you
the-
don't break even. That's my question to you. I just want you to answer that question, and that's it.
Our partners have enough assets to carry it.
Your partners,
Yes.
so,
Our company has enough money, enough assets that we're financially solid.
so if you are not bringing in the revenue that you expect, then your partners are going to make that up?
Our company will, yes.
That's a pretty bad business plan.
She won't let me answer.
No, I
Appropriately.
asked you a question.
I answered her appropriately. Our business plan allows us to rent X amount of rooms per month. That's our break even. If we don't hit that, we go back to our parent corporation and we pull funds from there until it does. And it will. And you know it will, Brad.
For 3 years, I've been around the break-even point, so how do you add rooms?
The way that
And cash flow.
the way that you run a business is not the way we run a business. And I don't know what you're doing.
I've been in business for 30 years, and I think I know a little bit.
Apparently not. If you're just
How
like me.
many hotels are you running right now? How many are you building? Show me one under construction. Show me one.
You want to go right now? You want to get in the car?
Yeah, I'd like to go right
Sure.
now.
Let's
Tell
go.
me one that
Come on.
you've ever built.
We'll leave.
Why don't you just tell me for a second? We'll look at
We're
it.
building one in Centerville, Illinois.
And you've got that under construction?
Yes, we do.
I think we were by there very recently, and there's still nothing but brush there.
There's a lot less brush
I
there.
don't think so.
That means under construction is less, right?
You're
Well,
calling me a liar now.
who you are.
Oh my gosh, you know you're rude.
That's it. That's it.
You're rude.
I'm gonna step out.
Good.
Brad, you got it.
There's no business plan there. If somebody can explain it, there is no plan. You've got one operator, and I'm in agreement with the other two guys that I have no reason for them to do an unbiased study. I don't know H&H. Yelmeyer was a neutral party. You guys have the information. I gave you my numbers. I don't know what more you want. We've worked hard for this town. We put everything we have into these businesses. We've done nothing but promote Chester. What more do you want?
You know,
If you have a failed business, then you're going to have nothing. You have no hotels. You know, there's a fine line. If you don't have enough cash flow, nobody keeps that. Or you put competition in. That's great for the consumer until things decay. And then the consumer has nothing. You know, there was nothing here before we came, or very little. A 700% increase in rooms in this local area. 700% after we built. And now you tell me that we need to tax fund another hotel? It's insanity. I don't understand any of this. Thank you so much.
Would the city, does the city have the legal ability to vet this to the point where the gentleman just left a statement that if this motel gets, if the property here gets into a financial problem, can we make sure that the owners themselves personally are going to guarantee that they're going to make these payments? Because the worst thing that can have happen to Brad is they build this, they go bankrupt, the property's sold for 10 cents on the dollar, and Brad gets another operator in town, and the guy's operating it purchases the defunct motel at 10 cents on a dollar and runs Brad out of business by that. You guys all understand it. The only way to make sure this doesn't happen is to make sure that these individuals have guaranteed this personally. These corporations, and these attorneys know this, these corporations can be worthless in 24 hours. And if they are so certain of this, that they will sign their personal purchase agreement, that gives it a lot more credibility than we just hear about a corporation.
What payments are they going to make? Well, I don't understand that. The TIF goes to
They
them.
borrow $6 million.
Yes, but there will still be,
$6 million.
there will still be a hotel on there where right now there's scrub brush, yes? And so there will still be some income coming in, whereas right now it's just,
If
what,
it
$20,
goes
$30?
Now, listen,
They still have to pay property tax,
I'm
yes?
not talking to you, I don't want to debate the bank.
Because you're wrong, sir.
All right, well, somebody here, the attorney knows what I'm talking about. bankruptcy.
And I agree, they should back up their words.
I don't know what bankruptcy is, you know, so I don't want to
Pardon?
discuss it with you.
Oh, shut up. Good Lord.
But, I mean, that's my suggestion, that if we're gonna do all this, and give them all of this, and they're gonna sit here and tell you that they can't do it, then have them sign that document personally. Jeff, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know what can be done.
Well, from the standpoint of protecting the city not to guarantee anything other than Well, in terms of the agreement, you can put an outside building clause in there, which will give you control over, if somebody, did what's fund, you control who can get assigned to make sure that the bills got paid. And there are some protections you can put in the document. You can't put every protection. The other lenders, where they get the money from, they're gonna have their own protections in there. As well, they'll have a lot of teeth in their documents, and you can have some teeth to protect the city's interests. I don't know any way you can protect every contingency, being a government body, you can't protect every contingency, that's not possible.
But you could, if the original builder, developer, who's party to the agreement goes away, then that could be made a default provision and TIF goes away.
Exactly, the TIF would go away, that's right, you can put that in, that's correct. Mike's
Oh, I fully understand that, the TIF's gonna go away, but that building's gonna be there, we all agree to that, don't we? And the lender is gonna sell it for a super discounted price. They could, and they probably will have to, because it won't work under the line.
I may be mistaken on the financing part that I made a comment on. What I heard Roger say is I think they may have the cash available to build this. They would be out. Okay?
Yeah. John?
Yes.
I'll see to it that it's successful.
I know your financial abilities, James. The city is going to give you a lot of money here, and they're gonna hurt Brad. And all I wanna do is level the playing field. It's gonna destroy Brad.
No, it's not.
And if it is,
It is not.
Sparta has three
Full.
hotels and they still stay open.
It's, if you want to play this isolationism and protectionism, you can do it. But it's at the city's cost. I mean, Brad's not going to get hurt. It's ridiculous.
I disagree with you, and nobody here is gonna disagree or have anything to say if you and your partners build this without public assistance. The whole issue here is giving this group the public assistance.
Well, you see, John, that property, my property, is in the TIF district. And I'm just asking for what everybody else has got out there. That's all. It's simple.
This is Chester, for God's sake. It's not Belleville, St. Louis. If they want to go that direction, fine. What do we need with 2 hotels? We don't even have a decent clothing store, for God's
There's
sake.
a reason for that. We run everything out of town.
Oh, sure.
We're gonna stick to the discussion, we're not gonna have arguments.
All right.
And that's, we're gonna stop that. So, nonsense.
Recently, a scenario happened the same way with me. Hardware store comes into town, there was no questions asked or anything else, took very much advantage of the TIF money to build a hardware store. There was absolutely no dollars spent for any construction on that store from anybody in the city of Chester. I don't know of anybody that got a paycheck for any reason on that store. So first of all, it was built out of all outside funds, outside labor, outside money. Everything went out of town. So the store was built, all money on construction went out of town. Nobody made a dime on that. All the tax money now goes to Mr. Capias. Mr. Capias does not support this town in any fashion. He does not give a dollar to anybody for any reason except a couple so-called gifts to the city at inappropriate times. And have you ever seen an ad that Mr. Capias placed in anything for any reason whatsoever? Any donation to any organization, any club, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, what have you? And his tax dollar, his 25% or whatever he pockets out of this deal, that goes in his pocket out of town. There is no money that is generated in that store that stays in this town outside of a few people that live here locally, I guess. So there's very little money that stays in this town out of that store. It's sucking this town for its stuff. Now, I have not increased sales because of that store, I can tell you. It has not helped my business at all. Fortunately, I'm in a cash situation where I don't have a lot of debts to pay. If I had money borrowed right now, I would probably be looking at bankruptcy, thanks to the money leaving this town. Not $1 stays here. He takes the tax money, takes it all and runs. So what are we going to do with the hotel? Outside investors, outside money, and they're not going to spend a dime in this town. Because he was talking about construction, his construction crew from out of town. He's not going to hire any local laborers.
Oh. We've already discussed the labor issue. Roach is here. There's going to be local labor. There's going to be local ownership. Now, whether you believe it or not, I'm one of your own too. I don't go down to Florida for 6 months. I stay here 12 months out of the year. Been here for 55 years, except for 6. We will put money back into town. I'll see to it.
I was wondering where everybody was when they were first discussing putting a TIF into Chester. I don't remember meetings, because I wasn't in politics then. Were any of you, did any of you come to TIF meetings before they put it in Chester? Back in the day? Nobody was interested in TIF back then?
15 years ago.
Well, I was here, I supported TIF at that time, okay? Right up until TIF started replacing businesses that were here. We've all discussed this before, we can rehash it. TIF has a purpose, but not to give an advantage to one business over another business when there's already those businesses in the community.
I don't know what else you could put in besides a grocery store. The other stores out there, that we had all those stores.
I don't see how that's relevant, that that you have to put more money into another, if that group wants to come to town, they can certainly do so. But do we have to give them the TIF money? Why don't we just let them come to town, let them build that economical motel, then they will pay taxes that the schools will get the money for immediately. Here, they're going to take that money and give it to the developers. And they said they were going to build anyway. So why don't we let them build the economical hotel, and we'll get that money into the schools immediately. As soon as the first tax statement goes out, the schools will get the money. You, the city, will get your money. The only person that won't be getting their money out of the taxes will be the developers, and they've got the money to do it. So why don't we let them build that economical motel, but don't give them the TIF money?
I've been here all my life too, and we've seen businesses dwindle throughout town, and I think that was before the TIF even showed up. And I think that was part of the reason why some of the TIF came in at that time, was to try to help promote more business.
Sure.
Because we did have a dwindling tax base, and it's been going down there.
But not to hurt businesses in town.
Well, I'm just saying on the business
Yeah,
side.
but the revenue you collect from Brad, you're gonna put another business in that's gonna take half his revenue, or the half revenue coming into this city, why?
What about
And
when
then it's gonna
Pahachek
go
came
back.
in? When Pahachek came in, we already had 2 funeral homes, yes?
Yeah.
And then what happened? Now we have 1. They get TIF money and they live in their TIF property, which as far as I can find, I can't say yes or no on that. Nobody knows. But they did the same thing, and they get their money every year.
Was
If
that
they-
right?
Are you arguing with us or against us?
That's what I mean. I can see both sides. Yes, that's what I mean. I see both sides, and it upsets me. Brad, I had a question I never could. Does your internet, can you guys get the Illinois state, can they still stay at you guys' place? Or is your internet not safety?
No, they stay.
They still stay
They're
there?
supposed to be hardwired. We've got some rooms that are hardwired and lobbies hardwired.
If you guys would put in a meeting hall, then I'd be all for you guys. Because, that's the only thing I really liked about that one. My thing is, though, is they're entitled to do it. You guys say the monies would go to the school. What about Craig Manor when they came in? They just went out and got written off. They pay nothing to the school district for 5 years. That's $32,000 a year that the city does not, or excuse me, the schools alone do not get. Where were you guys at the school board meetings? Where were you guys at the school board meetings, if that's what the thing is?
Where were you at?
I didn't know about it.
Well, maybe they
Right,
do.
nobody, but that's what I mean. Now we know about it, so why can't we just do the same thing? Why can't you guys go to the school and just get the school to write you guys off as well?
We were not there, we were in the midst of not being there, we should have been there, but we're here now.
Yeah, I'm all about
I
it.
don't understand the fighting.
You know that.
Oh, I know that.
And they're hurting so bad now. So we're just gonna yank more away from them.
I don't think you're yanking anything away from that.
You're already taking revenue for granted.
I couldn't hear you, Joe.
The question I have is, we're here discussing this and the possibility of voting on having an agreement with the hotel. I haven't heard anything about a financial plan from the group. I haven't heard anything about an engineering feasible study. They're talking about putting in the room a hotel for 75 people, plus a conference center, plus a restaurant, plus a pool. And I'd like to know, for instance, where are they going to park all those people? Because everybody that's been out there that's seen the topography, I personally don't think it's possible, but I know very little about engineering, obviously. It just seems to me that a financial plan and engineering study that shows that that's possible would be appropriate before the city council votes on this.
You guys go through a site plan review process anyway?
We typically, we haven't gone through like site review on that, that's basically for the architects and engineers.
Since this would be a pay-as-you-go type TIF, it's their risk. If they can't make the site work, then they can't make the site work. I think they've done enough preliminary layout to show that if they do raise the rear side of the site, which is going to be expensive to do, and build a retaining wall, that they would have enough surface area to accommodate the building and parking areas. I think that's been done, is that correct?
Yes.
In the site plan?
Yes.
Okay. With regards to if they do a smaller hotel and, do it without TIF assistance, it will still be in the TIF district unless the city takes it out of the TIF district, but it will still be in the TIF district, and the tax increment from that smaller hotel will go to the TIF fund and can be used to pay for TIF eligible expenses, such as upgrades to the water and sewer like the city has been doing for a while now in the TIF district. So if the smaller hotel gets built and it stays in the TIF boundary for which that property is, the school district won't see the benefit of it until the TIF expires. Sorry about that.
Unless, I do understand that until the TIF district matures, but unless the city will get all of the money from the taxes, then there won't be any go to the developer then. If he's paying $100,000 a year in taxes, the $100,000 is going to go into the TIF fund, that this group then will have the ability to possibly transfer some to the schools if they so desire, as opposed to giving 75% of it. If they bill at $100,000, give them $75,000 to the developers. It would, if they build it without TIF, then that money could still be funneled to the schools. And one way or the other, it wouldn't be going to the developers. And give them an unfair advantage.
Well, is it going to give them an unfair advantage if it's just making the site feasible? It's not going to allow them to reduce their room rates.
Well, you and I could debate this forever. Let's say that they bought a level lot in Chester, big enough to build this. It'll probably cost a lot more than that site can cost. So they are getting an unfair advantage because they're getting a cheap site developed by you, the city. You know that. You're making that face at me, and you're a sharp fellow, and you know exactly what I'm talking about there.
I think they lost me.
No.
If they
Okay, let's say that they don't build in the TIF district. to find on a arterial highway available, large enough, level, where it does not have to have significant site work done to it.
Their cost would be
It's
less.
gonna cost a lot more, many times more, to buy that piece of property than what that property was sold for, where it's so distressed.
It could be, depending on where it's located, but the actual physical cost to develop an easy site is gonna be much less expensive.
Okay, but the cost of the site, so we can debate that, because it's all hypothetical, but I know you know what I'm talking
Is the
about.
amount of money that they potentially could get out of this, like a 75% deal, I doubt if it would even pay for leveling this site. We calculated it to be somewhere around a net present value of $300,000.
Right, it is so insignificant, they need to just cut out with all this and just build it themselves, and don't worry about the tip.
Well, my point is, I doubt if it's gonna give them an unfair advantage by virtue of bringing their costs down to the extent to where they could lease out their, or rent out their rooms at a discount and at an unfair advantage within the marketplace. I don't think the amount we're talking about will do that. That's all I'm saying, from a financial standpoint.
Okay, do we have anyone else for discussion?
Just to follow up there, so what you're saying is that where the but bar comes in? Maybe explain that to me. Are you saying that it's so insignificant that it's not gonna make a difference whether they build the big one or the little one? It's so insignificant, so but far they should go ahead and do it.
No, when it gets into the but-for argument, that test was met when they set up the TIF. I think they're gonna have an issue no matter what, if they build a smaller one or a big one, they're gonna have an issue with that site. I'm leveling it out, so you have enough room for a building footprint and a place for your parking. They might be able to terrace it, but I think that would be difficult to do. All I was trying to say is that the amount of money that they potentially will get out of this will not translate into a situation where they're subsidized at such a high level that they'll be able to sell their rooms or rent their rooms at a subsidized rate.
Anyone else? Discussion?
I just have one question. Well, am I understanding this right, that you're saying that if these people go ahead and give James and his investors the 75%, that basically, that here you say they would only have like 6 years
Right.
of income, and you're saying that's going to be in the neighborhood of $300,000?
Right.
Okay, James, is that what you people, is that what your figures say too?
Yeah.
So we are fighting over $300,000 on a $6 million deal?
I just fell in love, Miss Clendenin.
Why are you guys fighting so much when there's so many people in the city that's against it?
No,
Well, this
there's
is,
not.
what, is it the principle of the thing that you're fighting against here?
Well, absolutely. My property's in the TIF district, and I'm just asking what everybody else got out there. Nobody has undergone the scrutiny and been put upon the things that we've had to go through to get to, yes, it is the principle now. Exactly it
But
is.
is it really worth that to make all these people so upset?
Yeah.
Well, we've all heard talk of the TIF being extended. We know that the legislation has been passed to extend. We know that Sparta's extended their TIF, so if you throw a distressed property into that, it leaves a pretty good scenario for guys. We have to extend this deal. We have to support this poor hotel. That's just my 2 cents. That's
You can't get a TIF extension without the written support of every tenant.
so that's not possible.
Legislation. But the legislature won't hear it unless you got the support of every tenant.
And that wouldn't be possible.
I don't know, you folks know the
said, when I come down here, I wasn't gonna do this, but with these numbers coming up, I am totally sorry. I'm flabbergasted. We can build a $6 million hotel and give them $300,000 first class. That's one scenario. Or they can build a $4 million hotel and save $2 million, lose $300,000, save $2 million, and put him out of business. You know, that don't make sense. That don't make sense to me. I'm sorry. It don't make. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, he's gonna spend $6 million for $300,000, and so rent rooms out for the same price that Brad is. Same price, maybe a little more. I heard more the first time, so I would hope that they would charge more, because that's what they said the first meetings we had. And now I hear they're getting $300,000, or they could build something for $3.5 to $4 million, and not get the $300,000 and charge $39 per room. Brad, I would want. I'm sorry. I don't understand that. I wish somebody could explain that to me.
Neither one's a good scenario, but the bottom line is, you're right, the numbers don't make sense.
John, did you have?
I did. I mean, first off, there's a false dichotomy here. People think that somehow if the city doesn't approve the TIF, there's not going to be a hotel. There's going to be a hotel. The question is, does the people in the city of Chester, do they want a nice hotel, or do they want a bargain basement hotel? Now, I don't live in Chester, but I would presume that most people don't want a bargain basement hotel in their city because of the kind of clientele that attracts. But that's your decision to make that. You need to understand that you have a TIF district that has a certain life to it. You have a window of opportunity here that's closing very quickly. By my calculations, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought we had 8 years left on the TIF. That's my understanding, but I could. Okay.
You do, but it takes a while for the cash flow.
All right. But my point is, the window of Chester's ability to attract any business, whether it's our hotel, hardware store, whatever, that window is closing. Businesses will only be attracted to Chester for a very finite period of time because they have to make use of that as big a window as possible. And frankly, if this project drags on much longer, our window in terms of what makes sense for us to do a quality project here, which is what we'd like to do, and again, we'll build the bargain basement hotel just to make use of the property that it controls. But we'd like to do something nice. We'd like to do something nice everywhere that we go. But that window of opportunity for outside investors to come in is closing. If they don't get at least 8 years of a TIF opportunity, they're just going to look past. So the choice is yours. You got to decide what kind of community you want to have. You got to decide what sort of clientele you want to attract. If you want to attract people that are attracted to a $39 a night hotel, that's your choice. I personally wouldn't want to live in that community. If you are so antagonistic towards people developing and you want to kiss this window of opportunity goodbye, that's your right. Doesn't seem to make much sense. One last thing. We're here on a TIF project. The TIF is a statutory creature. You've hired Mr. Brucker, who's a very well-known and respected attorney, has nothing to do with our group. He was hired by the city. He asked us a series of questions. He required us to submit a proposal, and we submitted the information that was required by law, and we made the appropriate demonstration that the project that we're doing satisfies the legal elements of the TIF district. There's really no question about that. If I'm wrong, I understand what you said before. City doesn't have to do it. The TIF isn't compelled, you're not compelled to award TIF approval. And obviously there'd be an agreement and we'd have an opportunity to negotiate the specific terms of that. But my point is that we have satisfied every legal requirement that is imposed by law. The kinds of things, the comments that are being made here are completely outside of what the law requires. Now, You have to make your own judgment what sort of community you want. I hope you make the smart judgment, which is to put a little money towards a project that makes your community better. If you don't want to do that, at least I spoke my piece and told you, here comes a $39 a night hotel, and you can deal with the consequences. But we own the property, we have the right to put that hotel up. But I would hope you would have the presence of mind and the judgment to look at the bigger thing, which isn't just one particular person who has a business in your town, but the entire community, and how you want to be viewed by the public at large. So I'd ask that you consider those things, and I think you do consider those things, and you consider the fact that we've satisfied each of the legal elements that are required. They've been reviewed by Mr. Brucker, and he's approved them, and he's the gentleman that you hired. I think that this project makes sense.
Anyone else?
That was sure a mouthful, but I don't have that much. I'm just thinking on a, $4 million project, $6 million project, if you're letting, a $300,000 commitment by the taxpayers of this town decide what kind of hotel you do and what you're charging, that just seems like pretty poor business planning to me.
5%.
I have to say something. I can't believe that actually the city of Chester was actually just threatened that if we don't do what you want, then you're gonna put in a crappy hotel to attract lower class people to us. That is exactly what you said. I'm offended by that. I'm so sorry. If you're gonna build a hotel, at least you should say it'd be nice either way. Not if you don't give me what I want, then you just see what happens here. That was awful. You guys were just threatened.
I got a question for you. You guys, did you do a study, sir?
Yes.
Your group?
Yeah.
And you decided Chester looked like a good place to build a hotel?
Yes. The reason why we originally looked at Chester is that one of the members of our group had, on a consistent basis, an inability to get a hotel room here in town. Then, because of that, and it was your hotel, sir, and that's not the first person that's told us that, it's not the last person. So we hear this from a variety of people. Now, based upon...
Prior to having properties being built, sir? You go back 4 years, 5 years?
Sir, I respected you when you had the floor. If you would do me the same courtesy, I think that would only be appropriate. Because we're not having a discussion back and forth. I have the floor. When I yield the floor, if you disagree with what I have to say, then you can have the floor. But until then, sir, I would respect the fact that you would respect this process and let me say my piece. But basically, we're working with a couple of different folks to put together hotels. They ran a series of numbers, and based upon the numbers that they ran, this is a feasible market.
We've got two professionals that were involved in this. They say it's not feasible. I don't know what years you're talking about. I've got facts and figures that I've presented. So, show me facts and figures and we can make more sense of things.
Anyone else for comment? Questions? Okay, moving on to decide whether or not to authorize preparation of redevelopment agreement proposed for purpose for a hotel within the TIF area.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we authorize preparation of redevelopment agreement to propose hotel development in the area.
Motion is second. Have roll call, Alderman?
Alderman Lucklee?
No.
Alderman Allison?
No.
Alderman Crossman? No. Alderman Dillman?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Bergman?
Yes.
Alderman Abernathy?
Yes.
Alderman Rader?
No.
Mayor Eklund?
Yes. Next, we have to discuss article funding to Chester High School.
Keep those markers big in next to each
sat down and took a look at the numbers to see how the TIF district for fiscal year 2011, that's for we picked that fiscal year because that's a year we have data for the school district as well as the TIF. And I explained before that there is, because of the state aid formula, and when you have a TIF situation, that the school district is not penalized for growth of property values inside of a TIF district. What that means is that the TIF district's funding from the state is largely dictated by the wealth of the school district, and the wealth of the school district is measured in taxable assessed value of property. So as assessed value taxing district goes up, or the school district goes up, they get less state aid. It's just the way the formula works. The legislature recognized that when you have a TIF district situation, there's taxable, or there's equalized assessed valuation in that TIF district that the school district can't tax, because the tax on that equalized assessed valuation is the TIF district. So what they said is that when we calculate general state aid, we're not going to penalize you for that equalized assessed valuation that you don't get. So what we did is we took a look specifically at fiscal year 2011. We saw how much equalized assessed valuation is associated with the TIF program, a little over $2 million, and how much tax the school district would get on that if that growth of the school district would be a certain amount. But by virtue of that growth, that $2 million in equalized assessed valuation being in the TIF, they're going to get to keep more state aid than they would otherwise need. So we sat down and calculated that. At the end of the day, the net impact of TIF numbers, the Route 3 TIF, is about $22,000. Okay, so, and that's assuming that the school district would be able to keep its tax rate the same and be able to keep its budget the same. The bottom line is that a fairly small amount of money, that there's other dynamics going on in the school district in terms of property values that would easily wipe out that $22,000 or so. That being said, we still look at the opportunity, if the city so desires, they could help out the school district with TIF funds, but it's limited on what you can do. And we met with the superintendent, asked him about their vocational training program, and we can use TIF funds to help fund that. And they shared with us the curriculum for that. There are plenty of courses in there and costs associated with those courses to where the city could enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the district and use some TIF funds to help fund that program. It could be the $22,000, it could be $10,000, it could be $50,000. Their program is, of course, much more expensive than anything that TIF could provide, but at the end of the day, if you so decide, you could help out the school district with TIF. That being said, you're going to have to take money that you may have dedicated to water and sewer projects in the TIF to help assist the school district. But that's a decision that you have the authority and from a policy standpoint to make.
But the only place we take it from, infrastructure projects, as far as the money?
Well, you couldn't take it away from obligations that you have to various redevelopment agreements, but it can come from the TIF fund. You spend it in a number of different ways, but most of your money that is not committed to TIF agreements has been, as I understand, for water and sewer.
Yeah.
But when you do your TIF budgets, you're just going to have to say, well, we think we're going to have, like $200,000 available to assign to water and sewer or whatever. It's just you do have the authority and the ability to say, well, we want so many thousand to go to the school district's job training program. The only pitch to that is you have to have an intergovernmental agreement spelling out what those programs are and how that relates to the jobs in the TIF districts, but that should be pretty easy to do. It's just a matter of deciding whether or not you want to do it.
I have asked for them ask Keith Bringman to look.
And we got 1, 2, 3, 4 projects that haven't been started yet.
Well, the water and sewer is about ready to go out to bid. And then you got the water lines.
Water lines.
Now, then I don't know how far, I don't know what you're gonna do with that walking trail.
Infrastructure for development of KIP property, north of Berkeley.
And we haven't done anything on that. So that's,
It's
I've
basically got
asked-
to come from them there.
Well, I think what we looked at, too, Mike, on that was on the water and sewer projects. I think that we were looking at pulling enough out of that to take care of those projects. And then once we had the balance left of it, we were looking at as far as dollar amount.
Well, I'm for helping school out, I'm just, wanted to just come with
That's
a strip of
right.
infrastructure.
We're still gonna get some of the projects out of the way too. Because we got the walking trail that's, we're kind of on hold on that. Some of those other projects can be taken care of, and then there's a balance.
and that's why we'd have to talk with Keith and look at the numbers very closely to see if you so desire to try to help the school district then see if we can get some money from the school district, you know, what we're talking about. You know, he is looking at he thought it's workable, but he's got to look at the numbers as far as now.
Superintendent, have you given some numbers to, have you met in a
Yes,
meeting
we
with
did.
anybody on the city side here?
As far as numbers go, they weren't sure, I'm not sure what you're asking. What we are budget
You might
wise.
be looking at, you want from us.
As much as you can give us.
Yeah.
It's the way general ed state aid, we cut to 89% from 2 years ago, which over the last 2 years ends up being $650,000, and we're down to 47% of our transportation fund from 2 years ago. That's reimbursed from the state. We're doing pretty good with the $200,000 deficit for this year.
How much
Considering
are we
some of the surrounding, pardon?
What is the deficit?
About $220,000 right now, doing our budget. And we're trying to close that every day and find ways to do it, but given those cuts and where we are, we've done a pretty good job in the district, and that's everyone across the board, from the teachers, everything trying to get there, so we always appreciate any help we can get to keep every program that we have.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, I don't know that we can carve out 220,000.
If only you could, but
Keith is looking.
right, we're looking to close that gap as much as possible, to keep every program we can for kids, so they all can be involved in everything they're doing right now. We've got a great school district. We offer more than any school district our size around, and I'm doing everything I can, and the board's doing everything they can. Everyone in the district's doing everything they can to keep that going.
Well, you're keeping my daughter employed, I appreciate that.
I'm trying to keep everybody employed.
But in the long and short of it is, I've asked our auditor, Brad, to look at the
Absolutely, and I
numbers
appreciate all the
where
help
we
from
are.
everyone involved.
We can make recommendations.
No.
Just the issue is do you want to proceed further with
I'll make the
exploring that
motion.
possibility? Yeah, you don't necessarily need a motion on it because unless you want to authorize further research, further discussions with the auditor.
I think we need to see what Keith thinks.
He's already working on the numbers now, so
We just want to
once
say,
we get that back, then
Sounds good. I will talk with him further and
we gotta know some numbers.
I will talk with him and get some numbers to bring back.
So are we locked into all those programs that he's got on paper?
Those are designated for as TIF projects.
But we're not locked into specific projects.
Can you be held to?
Right.
Yeah, it's a resolution.
yeah, those are just projects that we have to designate for that TIF money in those areas.
You have to commit them and say that, but you can change your mind each fiscal year.
discussions on the high school using TIF resources?
So I will go further with Pete and Mike, or see where we can go with this.
Other discussion?
No.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.